wanted to create a convention that we felt like was truly built from the ground up to be very inclusive of everyone, like make everyone feel like they really belong in the world of fandom, because they do. Everybody deserves a seat at the table and deserves to feel comfortable and safe attending events, and not to be shut out of like networking opportunities and fun stuff to do. So that was the original impetus, and it's been so much fun that we keep doing it, just because it's the number of awesome people that we've met along the way, and just how much everyone, including us, looks forward to that weekend in October every year. It's not that big a stretch to say that sometimes people do go and then come out a little bit changed on the other side of it, at least in terms of their new friends and their new thoughts on things, and like rejuvenated inspiration.
I think the conversations is what Jesse means. When you come out of it and you've had all of these amazing conversations that you don't necessarily get to have in everyday life, people who are smart and funny and usually quite goofy, and it's becoming a family.
The intricate weaving we do at Multiverse between programming, accessibility, and celebration is a true testament to the awesomeness of the event. And with that in mind, we welcome the intricate stylings of fantasy and YA author Taylor Munsell, the celebration of an anthology of a guest of honor that needs your help, then science and fantasy writer Calley Jones, and finally a look at the charitable institutions of Multiverse. All that on this episode of the Spotlight on the Multiverse with your host, Joe Compton. And because I had to run it in a different way, y'all, so I apologize. Live videos as usual, giving us bits. But welcome to the Spotlight on the Multiverse. I am Joe Compton. It's so nice to have you here, as it is so nice to have my guest to start the show tonight, Taylor Munsell. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself, Taylor. Tell everybody what you do, what you write, and everything of that wonderful nature.
Absolutely. I am so excited to be here. Like you said, my name is Taylor. I write YA and fantasy. I am a former funeral director turned marketer for funerals. So I'm still in the death industry, just in a different way. And my debut book, actually, I just got my hardcover copies. Comes out in September. Yeah, it's so my illustrator did a great job. And yeah, it comes out in September. So I'm just excited to be here.
Just in time for Multiverse.
I know, right?
Nice, awesome. We have some guests here. Anita's here. Jesse's here. Hi, Jesse. Nice to see you. And nice to see you too, Anita. You are a first timer. I love it. I've said it before in this show. First timers for Multiverse. It's an interesting time to be a first timer this time around, because I think for all of us, because it's a new location and a lot more going on, we're all going to have some kind of first timer aspects to it. And so it's kind of a neat thing that we're all going to experience together. What made you decide that you wanted to be a part of Multiverse?
There are a lot of conventions out there, and some have really great programming and some have normal programming. When I looked at Multiverse, I really liked the diversity in the programming and just the options that were out there. And it didn't feel like just your standard convention. There was a depth to it that I really liked. And there was a lot going on, both from panel programming to just social events. And I think it's really important in cons. So that I had to apply immediately.
Nice. Well, we're glad you did. That's pretty awesome. I'm sure you've looked at the survey and gone through it. Was there anything in there that stuck out to you, something that you were very interested in?
Oof, that is a great question. I'm not going to lie. I filled out the survey as soon as I got it, which was a few weeks ago. So I don't remember off the top of my head, but there were definitely quite a few that I put my name in the ring for. So we'll see what comes out of it.
Nice. Yeah, it's gonna be soon. Everybody's gonna find out pretty soon here.
I,
Vanessa was on our show on Friday, and she was talking about how uh, the choices are being made. So, and then
mhm.
and then the directors will fight over who they want, and we'll know soon. So, yeah, that's gonna be awesome. It's so uniquely not only well organized, but just uniquely thought out and just interesting that there's so much that you can be a part of, and
Mhm,
even if you have a niche in genre fiction or in
mhm,
writing in general, there is crossovers that help you because we're ultimately fans of so many things, right? So it
mhm,
just makes a lot of sense. It's really well thought out in terms of programming wise. Uh,
mhm.
so you know the interesting aspect of coming into multiverse the first time, is there things you've heard about it from others? Is there something that somebody talked to you about multiverse? Have you had conversations about the con before?
I had not prior to applying. Like I'm a debut author, so exploring cons is kind of like my this is my first foray into it,
Nice.
and since then I've had quite a few conversations with other authors. Just again, as we're looking at what cons to apply to, what to go to about multiverse, and it's the same that I said originally. They look at the programming and they're like, that it looks so much fun. Like it's not just talking about writing or one, like you said, just one avenue of um, fan fanfic, because there's a lot of ways to be a fan of everything. So uh, there's just a diversity there, and I do have quite a few author friends who are not only jealous but wish they lived closer so it wouldn't be so far away for them.
Oh, hey, I'm traveling from California to go, so it's not unheard of. So come
Hmm.
on, everybody's welcome. I'll I'll
Yeah,
I'll
there's
I'll
direct
rent
flights.
I'll rent a caravan, and I'll just pick people up along the route, and I'll just bring everybody, right?
Hmm.
That's cool. Eh, so this is like literally your first foray into cons, period. Then have you done
um
a couple beforehand?
yeah, yes, it is my first one into like, so I've done writing conventions before, but not an official con. So I've been to them, but not as a guest. So I'm really excited.
Well, it does have that. It does have a little bit of that writing convention feel too. A little bit. I mean,
Hmm.
there's not as much. I mean, there is a lot of networking, but don't get me wrong. But there is not as much like um, sit down professional. This is goal oriented. This is more of let's kind of let loose and kind of talk
Hmm.
about things that are familiar to us and meet our people. Basically.
Hmm. It feels like, instead of being craft based or something like that, it feels more like this is gonna sound so cheesy, like joy based. So like all the things that make you excited and like you just want to talk about them. That's what it feels like.
Do you have a particular fandom that you're excited to talk about at Multiverse?
Um,
It's okay if you don't want to admit it. We can keep that private if you don't want to admit it.
I have a lot, and I do not always bring them all up at once because it's a little
Mhm.
overwhelming. But I do think it's surprising when you're in conversations and how different connections can go to different fandoms that you don't even realize that that would be made. So I'm excited to see what comes up.
Nice. You you're so fascinating in terms of your history and who you are as a person.
Hmm.
From funeral director to marketing for funerals to
Hmm.
writer to publisher to all
Hmm.
these things is I just it's very interesting. Jesse says, "Yay, first time guest. Hope you have a great time. There's a lot of craft business networking for writers if you want it, but there's also a ton of stuff to do as a fan of whatever you like." Yeah, absolutely. You'll have conversations you didn't think you would have there. That's pretty amazing. It's pretty cool.
I'm excited for that.
So talk about your evolution a little bit in terms of who you are and why were you always somebody who wrote like as a hobby or on the side, or you've always wanted to be a writer kind of thing, and that's you kind of just did the work thing and kind of I'm sure to me funeral directing and stuff like that, there's kind of got a lineage to that, there's kind of got a pathway, right? But so I don't want to say you just did work to work and then to get into writing, but it seems like there is a little bit of that in terms of how you became a writer. Is that fair to say?
So I mean, I wrote a lot when I was in high school. I've always told myself stories too, and I didn't really know that wasn't like a normal thing for people to do, like to tell yourself a story when you're falling asleep at night and you have a whole narrative and world built, and until I was much older. But so I wrote in high school, but it kind of got lost in college, like a lot of my hobbies did. And then I fell into funeral directing. It wasn't like, if you would have asked me even my senior year in college if that was something I was thinking of, I would have said no. Who does that? But I went to school for event management. I was going to be a wedding planner, and then I started actually planning weddings and said no, thank you.
I'd rather plan your death instead.
Yes. So they were actually recruiting at my school, and I thought they were interesting, and it was and the more I learned about it, the more I liked it, and then that's what I did for 5 years, and I loved it. And I just eventually took a step back and through a couple other avenues, I started a master's degree in English for creative writing, and fell back in love with writing again and reading. And now I work in marketing, and I'm back with the funeral company, so that's always interesting to see how that evolved. And it's interesting to see how writing evolved too, because I'm right back in it and immersed. I can't go a day without it. So
is this story one of those where you were telling yourself early in your early life, or is this one that just came about to you naturally later on?
So it's one that came about later on. So I actually was rewatching Pushing Daisies. Did you ever watch that show? Oh, it's so good. Yeah. And I had to write a flash fiction for my for one of my graduate courses, and I said, what if there was a girl who could experience the death of anyone she touched? And the first chapter in the book was actually part of that flash that I wrote. And then I just, once I started writing about George, she just kept coming. And now there's a whole story about her because she had something to say. So
Anita says she loves Pushing Daisies. Yeah, that was one of those shows that got an untimely death, to be ironic.
I know the writer's strike back then. I was devastated, but
yeah. That's funny. I mean, I think there's going to be quite a bit of envy for a lot of people at your history. I know there is personally for me. I just think it's fascinating. It's a fascinating element. I mean, 6 Feet Under touched a lot on it, and there's a lot of, and that was very, I would imagine that was very true to life for you in a lot of respects. I mean, obviously it's a little bit of a smaller niche of that aspect, but but I would imagine
it's really funny because like the running joke with funeral directors is you've watched 6 Feet Under, right? Because it's like the rite of passage. Everyone has to watch it. But yeah, I mean, there was a lot of truth in it. And when I read watch TV or anything, I can't help but point out, like, that's not how that happened.
What's the biggest
So,
misconception you see out there? What is one thing that you see that really drives you crazy? Because like I was a Marine, and just to give you context, I was a Marine,
mhm.
and I watched, Few Good Men is one of my all-time favorite movies, but I can't stop staring at Jack Nicholson's lapel because his medals are on backwards, and people would never
Mm,
know that unless they were a
mhm,
Marine, and so little
mhm.
things like that drove me crazy, and it's like, and I noticed those little things. What do you notice? What is the biggest thing that writers or shows or things get wrong about funeral directing?
There's so many. I I think it is interesting how funerals are so often portrayed in one way when it's so diverse across the nation. Like, you know, in certain areas it's very traditional, but in others it's very, like celebration of life based. So there's a lot more like kind of a party aspect to it. But all you ever see when you watch TV is that everyone's in black and standing at the graveside, and and um, there. I mean, and the funeral director is usually this very grumpy person who doesn't have a personality, but um, so uh, I think it's just always portrayed in the same way. So it is interesting to because I write about funerals in some of my books, and just kind
I
of,
would hope
add
so.
in, yeah, add in something that's a little different than the norm, because there's so many options out there, just like anything else.
Kai says she does the same thing with science. Yeah, I got to imagine that.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, writing about it, I think there would be so much mundaneness to it because it is kind of like it's just reciprocal, it's clinical, it has
Hmm.
it just has a routine that like 5,000 steps that nobody ever needs to know really about,
Hmm.
that really wouldn't move a story at all. But
Hmm.
having that knowledge, do you feel like it's kind of like when you world build and you don't show the audience or show the reader what you're thinking about, why the water goes
Hmm.
this way or whatever the case, the little things that don't matter to the story but matter to you because you're building the world. Do you do a
Hmm.
lot of that when you're writing funeral scenes and things of that nature? Do you have so much that that helps you kind of authenticate something that maybe others would miss?
Yeah, I mean, I it's not just with funerals though. So I mean, I obviously, my debut book is called Touch of Death. I write about a lot of death. I think the way that, I looked at death after working in the industry for so long has really shifted, and just the way people experience grief, and um, the healing process. And I explore that a lot in my writing too. Just that's my hidden world building, is just the, kind of exploring in a cathartic way all of the different ways that people are going to experience something that is so common, such a common human experience. So
Mm. Are you planning on selling at Multiverse? Are you gonna have books available for people if they want to take a look at it?
I believe so.
You believe? Okay.
I'm
You're
like
hoping so, maybe.
99% sure. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
tell
so they'll
everybody.
be
Tell
out.
everybody. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, they'll be out for about a month ahead of time. So yeah, that's the plan.
So tell everybody a little bit about A Touch of Death. What's it about? What is the story?
Sure. It's a YA fantasy. So George is a 16-year-old death witch and medium who, like I mentioned before, has the gift of experiencing the future death of anyone she touches, which she hates because that's terrible. Why would you
Right.
want
Yeah.
that? So, she has to kind of learn to embrace her magic when she bumps into the new kid and experiences his death at her hand. So it's kind of a murder mystery slash
Ah,
will she, won't she kind of thing.
that's fantastic. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it.
What? Why YA? What was it about inhabiting that time period for you that mattered?
Um, it's such a volatile time in a person's life. And just you're already feeling isolated no matter how included you are.
Hmm.
And I wanted to again explore that isolation of, you can't touch anyone. You're obviously going to sequester yourself from people so you don't touch them, so you don't see how your loved ones die. And just what does that look like when you're trying to navigate, making friends and growing up and your algebra homework and just trying to survive how many changes you're going through in the beginning or to begin with. So,
Right.
um,
Boys and girls, loving boys and girls, right? And
yep, yep. Get your first crush when you cannot touch them. That's
yeah,
always fun.
right. Wow,
So, yeah, it's just the juxtaposition of firsts, I think, that
Mm,
really led me down that path.
that's awesome. I'm going to ask you my favorite question to ask YA authors because this really fascinates me.
Hmm.
Obviously, you're not 16 years old, but you were at
I'm
one
not.
point.
I
Yeah.
was.
I mean, you're probably pretty close, but yeah.
It's been a long time.
I didn't want to say that. I was trying to help you there.
It's been a long time.
But you know, in re-inhabiting that mindset and that personality and going back into that and remember, and I would imagine you touch upon some of how you felt at that time
Hmm.
period too. What's that like for you? Was that difficult? Was that freeing? Was there a process you had to go through in order to get to that mindset? What was it like inhabiting a 16-year-old's mindset?
Um, that's a great question. So, I think it was kind of enlightening because, I imagine other people feel this way too, but like I have a lot of negative feelings around a lot of things that happened when I was a teenager. And
Sure.
it was, interesting to be looking at it through the lens of now as an adult looking at it and trying to add some of those experiences into George's life and realizing that not everything was someone else against me. It was mostly just me against me, which is terrifying to think about, but also kind of freeing because, you know, and now looking at like I have teenage nieces, I have two little girls who will eventually be teenagers. I feel like it does cast those conversations that I'll eventually have with them in a different light. Like it's all in your head, kind of. But you know, uh people aren't always out to get you, and I think that's how you feel as a teenager. So and that's certainly how George feels in the book. So yeah. Yeah.
I think the hardest thing to convey to young people for me is that it'll be okay. You're gonna be all right.
Mhm.
I mean,
Mhm.
Georgia might be the exception because that is a burden that I could never imagine having. But I think ultimately, as you get older with that burden, maybe you grow to appreciate it. Maybe not. Maybe there's something about it that changes for you a little bit. I
Mhm.
don't know. But ultimately, when you grow out of that phase and that time period in your life, you realize, what was I so worried about, right?
Yep. As I so I was literally sorry, I have a teenage niece. I was literally just having this conversation, because she was worried. She's like, I look so terrible. I'm like, no one is looking at you. No one cares. They're all worried about themselves. And
Yeah.
it's not something that you feel when you're in high school, but I mean, you learn it as you get older and you wish you
Mm,
could go back and be like, no one cares.
mhm.
So,
Is it hard to not sprinkle that into a story that you're writing about where you have to be narrow minded in that perspective?
um, no, Um, you know, um, I really get into the head of the character that I'm writing,
Yeah.
and it's especially when I write YA because it's all in first person, so it's pretty easy to let them tell their story and kind of sink into how they're feeling.
Mm.
And like I might sprinkle it in for how the adults speak to them, but of course,
Yeah.
when you're 16 years old, you don't listen to any adult.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. You know it all.
So yeah. So I try and put in the advice I wish I had, even though I probably didn't, just ignored it. So
Okay, let me ask you this. Is it hard when you come out of writing that character to let go of that energy?
yeah, I would say I'm a little angstier than am normally when I especially with George because she's so angry in the beginning and like uh
This might have been a better question for your husband, but
oh yeah, yeah. He's glad George is written, but yeah, no, it is, and I don't think it's just YA. If you are really getting into like any characters that you're writing, like I feel like it's kind of like method acting where you
yeah.
just sink into them, and then you come up for air, and you're like, oh, good, I'm not a monster like I thought I was.
There's this famous story that I love about Jim Carrey when he was doing Andy Kaufman, and he was doing the movie where he plays Andy Kaufman, and he couldn't get out of
Mhm,
Andy Kaufman, so he reinvented another character to get into, to re-inhabit, to
mhm,
get out of Andy Kaufman. But then he got stuck
mhm,
in that character, and it was kind of this vicious cycle that he had to get into like a real deep meditation to get out of. And it's just kind of
mhm,
funny that happens. But I mean,
mhm,
it's scary too. I mean, the little bit of acting I've done and the writing I've done for sure. That's kind of why I write more uh, modern, because I'm more in that space, so it doesn't affect me as
mhm,
much. But I imagine going into like a historical fiction or something like that, when you get into those things, it's a lot different. So
mhm, mhm.
uh Callie says healing childhood wounds through writing. Yes.
Yep, that's what we do.
uh I'm curious, what is Georgia's view of death? Does it evolve for her as well, or does she have a kind of stark, weird view of it?
So, she is a death witch, like, aside from her weird touch of death, she is a death witch, so she has a different connection to death, and, like, the way their coven views it is kinda like a continuation, it's just part of the, continuation, and like your standard YA novels, her parents did die when she was young, so, like,
Mm,
she's an orphan technically, so, there's a lot of anger for that too, but she also sees ghosts and they talk to her. So she is, even though people die, they're still in her life,
mm.
um, whether or not she wants them to be. So uh, I don't think she has a clear line between, a clear view of it. And that is something I would like to explore, if I write her sequel. Just what it looks like after the events that happen in the book.
So this is a planned series then, hopefully.
Um, so when I first wrote it, again, it was a flash fiction, and then she just keeps coming. But I kind of see it as a duology, but we'll see what happens.
Nice. I love that. Do you have other ideas, other stories you want to write? Maybe something that doesn't involve death, or is it always going to involve death for you?
Um, I do write a lot of things. I do write like I have a Dungeons and Dragons rom-com that I wrote, and
Oh,
like
awesome.
yeah, I wrote another YA fiction with witches. I have a lot of witches in my books apparently, but um I do write romantasy, which is like the hot button genre right now, but
Uh,
all of them feature, a little bit of blood. So they're all kind of a little a little violent, a little dark. Because there's just so much human emotion to explore there, and like growth
Mm.
and characterization, and you know,
Does
there's
it
just so
start?
many avenues you can take. So,
Does it start with the characters for you? Is that where it starts?
um, yes, yep. It starts with the main character, the main problem, and then I really figure out how it ends, and then it kind of expands from there.
So you're a discovery writer. You're a pantser.
Kind of, yeah, yep.
Yeah.
So I have like a beginning, a middle, and end, and
Mm.
then as I write, so I'll write a bunch of chapters, and then I'll spend time figuring out what happens to get them to the next plot point, and then outline them, and then write them, and do it again because it's not just I don't want to ever be forcing a character to get from point A to point B. Like
Mm.
they need to drive their own story to how they get there. It makes it feel more authentic.
Mm. Sounds like you could be a screenwriter because that's how I do it as a screenwriter. So
Really?
yeah, that's a lot.
My
That's how I set up. That's
my
how I set up a lot of stories.
my books look like, or my first drafts look like screenplays because they're just like dialogue and
Yeah.
yep, some scene directions, but no, it's not fleshed out. So
Well, there's always that opportunity, so you never know.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You strike me as someone who's not afraid to go for it. So
I'm not. Yep, no.
well, it's been an awesome conversation, Taylor. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me and be here, and I really appreciate the opportunity. Your book sounds awesome. I'm definitely going to be adding it to my TBR once I get off of here, and yeah, I'll look forward to meeting you in October, and hope you really enjoy Multiverse and become part of our family. I mean, you're well on your way, so really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today.
Thank you. I loved being here. This was a lot of fun.
So tell everybody where they can find this wonderful book of yours.
Absolutely. It's on all major retailers. I will hold it up again because it's so
Yeah, look at
pretty.
that beautiful thing.
Um,
Hey, you mind
um,
if I put you on full screen for that?
yeah, that's fine.
Oh, no, not that one. This one.
Yep. It's on all major retailers, and you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, my website. It's all Taylor Munsell. So
Nice, awesome. Yeah, everybody go check that out. Get that book,
yeah,
and yeah, we'll talk about it at Multiverse. And
yeah,
uh,
sounds great.
so we'll be right back with Calley Jones right after this. But we have a great Kickstarter from a guest of honor of Multiverse last year, Mr. Milton Davis, who needs your help a little bit to get to he's so close to the threshold. Everybody, he just needs a little bit of bump. So if you're watching this for the first time and you haven't seen this before, go check out Space Funk, and here's more about it as the man himself tells you all about it. And then we'll be back with Calley Jones.
Hi, I'm Milton Davis, author and owner of MV Media. In 2013, we began an anthology series which gave authors of African diaspora descent the opportunity to express themselves in their own way in various speculative fiction genres. We called it the Funk Anthologies, and they have been well received by authors and readers alike. The series began with steampunk, our spin on the steampunk genre, and continued with diesel funk, spy funk, and cyberfunk. But I'm here to talk about the next step in the Funk Anthology series, space funk. This will be our biggest anthology ever. With over 40 stories and poems, we're excited about our amazing authors sharing their fictional visions of space. As with our previous anthologies, we have a wide range of authors, from veterans to first-time authors. We also have authors from around the world, which each author bringing their unique cultural influences to every story. By the time you finish reading these stories, you will agree that space is the place. This is the first time we've used Kickstarter to create a funk anthology. We're doing it because if we're successful, we'll be able to pay our authors SFWA rates. It also allows us to create a book that will be as physically pleasing on the outside as it is on the inside. Our goal is $20,000, and with your help, we can make it happen. So scroll below, choose one of our great reward levels, and share with a friend. Thank you in advance for your support. Space is the place.
Yeah, everybody go check that out. It's a wonderful, wonderful anthology that we're happy to support and to talk about. But right now, that none of that matters because we have Calley Jones here, which I'm real excited about. Hi, Calley. It's nice to see you again. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. Good. We're real excited. We have another first timer to Multiverse right here, and I won't say that you were kind of dragged to Multiverse by a certain somebody who we've already had on this show. I won't say that because Multiverse is still a choice and you still get an opportunity. But we're super glad that you're going to be joining us in October. So, tell everybody what was it appealing about Multiverse that made you apply?
Well, yes, there was a certain somebody who suggested this idea to me, but I would be doing her a massive disservice if I said that she dragged me into this. It was more like, hey, look, convention, we do together, and I said, yay. So, I mean, I'm not going to lie. The idea of going to my first con with a friend was very, very appealing to me. And that's a lot of what, that's a lot of what made me, got the process rolling. But I looked into it and it's like, oh, fantasy, sci-fi, horror. I like all of these. I write all of these things. Board games. Yes, give me games. Give me all of this. Sounds amazing. This is my place. And so it was a nice little moment of serendipity, I think.
Nice. For those of you who missed Friday's episode, we're talking about Miss Claudia Blood, who is obviously a frequent guest here, as is Calley. Calley's been on our shows a few times. Jesse says, yay, another first timer. That is the co-chair of Multiverse with Jesse Adams. So he's very excited to have you. As am I. I'm super glad that we'll get to meet in person and hang out in October. It is interesting because, and this I can't believe this is your first con. That's awesome. I think there's good and bad in that. I think the good is you're going to really, really just like want to be at other cons, but the bad is you're going to compare every con from this point forward to Multiverse, which is not a bad per se, because that's great. Because if you just fall in love with Multiverse and nothing else, we're happy. But Multiverse is going to raise such a high bar, and that's pretty interesting too. But
oh darn!
Yeah, right. I love it.
It's gonna upset me so much.
But heading into Multiverse, there's a lot of interesting things that I think you really gravitate toward. That's really in your wheelhouse. Did you look at, like, for example, the Learn track? For people who don't know, Calley is a scientist in life. She's got a PhD. She's super smart. She's doing something very, very amazing with that knowledge that I'll let her talk about what that is, because it is saving the world, people. It is an amazing, amazing thing that she's doing. But in terms of like the science aspect of things, we have at Multiverse something unique to the con-going experience, which is a learning track. Did you look at that at all? I mean, as a first timer, I would imagine that's going to be pretty daunting, but you've probably given lectures and done things like that before, I would imagine.
I strongly considered applying for it, but I decided I wanted to sort of feel out the waters a little bit and watch a few of them.
There's always next year, right? So
yeah, because obviously I'm going to fall in love with Multiverse, like you said. I'm going to come back every year, right?
Yeah, I have no doubt about it. Knowing you, I have no doubt about it. Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty. I think it's going to be serendipitous for sure. I think so. Yeah.
But I did think that was interesting, and I did start thinking. I was like, oh, I could talk about this. I could talk about this, but I was afraid that I would write like an actual dissertation also. and I wouldn't like be able to stop in the process of doing a super deep dive, and then I would get massive imposter syndrome and be like, but I'm not doing it right. And like the academics that I was in a previous life. So I didn't want to edge too close to the real academic experience. I ran away from that.
Well, I'll do the honor of introducing you to RJ, and then she'll convince you that that's what you have to do next year. I think.
Fair enough. Being voluntold into teaching seminars is also a crucial part of academia. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and she sniffs out the academics pretty fast, and she'll take you for her own. Trust me, I guarantee it.
I clearly made a critical error in admitting to it.
I think anybody who would see your background, though, would be like, oh, yeah, that's a person that I want to hear to speak for an hour and a half about something. Yeah. But there is also the aspect to you that is, you have a for lack of a better term, a geekery foundation to you. You do have a nerdum that you gravitate towards as well. Was that very appealing to you as well? Did you, when you looked at the survey, did you go, oh yeah, this is my wheelhouse?
I did. I really liked that there was a kind of a diverse spread between, really popular ideas and concepts and fandoms being represented, and also some less popular, indie stuff as well. Like, the authors that are going to be there, and new board games that are gonna I keep mentioning board games. I like board games and TTRPGs, and I was excited about like seeing this cool new stuff as well. So I'm really excited, and it's going to be I don't know how I'm going to be able to like actually sell books from my authorized alley table without going, no, I'm gonna go over here, no, I'm gonna go over there.
Squirrel.
You see now why Claudia and I are friends.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's gonna be probably the most unmanned author table in Multiverse, the two of you. I think there's
this is why she's bringing the children.
I think there's going to be a moment. I'm going to be standing next to one of you, and one of you is going to text the other and go, "Are you at the table? No. Are you at the table? No." I guarantee you, there's going to be that text message thread at some point during this.
I would bet good money on that.
But I mentioned your academia, but you're also a fantasy author, or you're a speculative fiction author. You've done so much in every genre. Was there a certain aspect you want to spend more time with in terms of, even if you aren't participating on a panel, in the audience aspect of it? Is there a certain track that you were gravitating towards?
You're asking me to make decisions? Come on.
No, in July too. So.
I've got like 2.5 more months to decide this. I mean, there were elements of every track that interested me. I'm not gonna lie, and I think that's what I liked about Multiverse, is like I can kind of pick and choose from all of the different interests. So yeah, there were quite a few things. I was like, I don't know that I'm authorized to speak on this, but it's really cool and I need to hear about it. I can't, think of any right off the top of my head right now, but I did have that thought process going through the sessions as well. So
I do have one suggestion for you, a panel to, if you are not scheduled at that time, or you have an opportunity to do.
Claudia's watching the table.
When Claudia's supposed to be watching the table, let's put it that way. Probably one of her kids will be there, but the build an RPG panel that's going to happen in the gaming track, I think you will really love that, because it's very interactive. Even amongst the crowd, the audience gets involved. They ask for suggestions, and it's more of an interactive circle than it is a panel per se. There are people on the panel who are putting the ideas forward, but it is mostly the audience that gives a lot of the context in it, and I think you would really love that.
I remember that. I was excited about that. Yeah.
Yeah, nice, awesome. Well, definitely make sure you get there. So let's talk about you a little bit in terms of yeah, your academia is very interesting. I kind of touched on it. Tell everybody a little bit about what your specialty is in terms of science. What you are studying, what you're working on.
Okay, so I went to school for I went to school to be a scientist. I was really interested in cancer research for a while, and so I went to college for, I majored in biology. I minored in creative writing, but I majored in biology. And then I went to graduate school and worked in a breast cancer lab for 6 years. Got my PhD, but I knew around the middle of grad school that I didn't necessarily want to stay in the lab, but I wanted to do something science adjacent. But over here, I've always had this writing passion that I have had for, my entire life. And I'm like, science, writing. Like most of my life, I've been put in situations where I have to choose one or the other. Why don't I put them together? Because there is an entire there's an entire field of science communication. Like, I love that. So I kind of switched tracks a little bit and started getting experience in science writing. So I currently work for a cancer research nonprofit, and basically we have a handful of journals and several meetings that we put on every year, and we get to look at all of the science that is being presented at our meetings, being published in our journals, other initiatives and stuff that the organization is doing to help further cancer research, and we write about it. So I don't have to I don't have to get bogged down in all of the nitty-gritty microscopic details of the scientific process anymore. I can just read about the really cool discoveries that are being made, have the background to understand those discoveries, and then talk about them to other people. It is fantastic.
There's a lot of misconception out there and a lot of things that you might read or you might think are true about breast cancer and cancer itself.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is the most egregious right now?
Cancer. I really can't pinpoint one, actually, right off the top of my head, but I try to avoid the comment sections of places that are talking about cancer research, because I have scrolled through many or any health sciences thing. I actually distinctly remember one point toward the end of graduate school, I was already starting to do science communication stuff, and I ended up on a post about Alzheimer's, and the comment section almost made me cry. Like, it went all the way to like Alzheimer's is a conspiracy type things, or you won't get Alzheimer's if you eat clean, if you eat this, that, and the other. And it's just it's science communication is important.
I wanted to do that to highlight how important it is what you do, but I am. What are you most optimistic about? What have you gleaned that you feel is like a really good breakthrough that you might be able to share with us?
Ooh. I mean, there's a lot of fun stuff going on in cancer research right now, in terms of kind of new therapies that are being advanced. There are new I am speaking as myself and not a representative.
And going now is not a medical professional site or anything like that.
I am giving my own opinion as Calley Jones. This is the opinion of me and not of my employer. Got that disclaimer out of the way. Don't want to go into HR tomorrow.
Yeah. We can skip it all if it's gonna get you in trouble. I don't want to do that. I find it fascinating what you talk about and what you write about. So it's
there's well, that's what I love about my job is I get to see all the cool advances like as they happen, and we write about all the new FDA approvals that come out, and that's always really exciting because it means patients are getting new therapies that they couldn't necessarily get before. And yeah, there's so much going. There's a lot coming down the pipeline. There's a lot that has come out recently. It's exciting to watch it all happen.
And I've got to imagine at this point in the research and everything that it's kind of nice that it's no longer a true death sentence, right? I mean, there is some seriousness to it, and there are some things you have to do to, for prevention's sake and help yourself, but and not to ignore it, but if you take care of it, if you do all the right things, you can live through it and survive.
There's definitely way better chances for most cancers than there used to be, which is a very encouraging trend for almost all cancers. The survival rates are getting steadily better, and some significantly so, at very rapid rates. And so, it's super promising to watch. And like I said, with every new cancer therapy, some people are getting a new treatment or an additional line of treatment after they've exhausted all of their other possibilities and they're out of options. And now there's a new therapy that they can try. And it's really cool. Cancer research is really cool. I mean, it can be sad and it can be, heavy sometimes, but kind of like you're alluding to, it's getting to see the advances that are being made and the way that they're actually helping people is a lot of fun.
All right, let's take a hard right because I've tortured you enough with what you do for a day job and your work. I'm
off the clock, Joe. Come on.
I do wonder how much more you feel like you're a better writer because of your academic background and what you do. Do you feel like there's an easier way to authenticate what you're trying to write about? Do you feel like writing becomes more of a better escape for you and it gives you a different side of your brain to use?
I can see both sides of that. So for instance, I had to put a tortured academic in my current story that I'm working on. I have a grad student of magic, and they just, they're a tortured academic, and then they play that up significantly. So, and so that process is easy to write because I can extrapolate from, it's like, oh yeah, I've been there. I can just draw on my own, I can draw on my own experiences, and that's easy. They say write what you know, right?
Right.
And so it's been fun to think up, what types of data is this grad school analyzing? It's it's magic, it's not science, but they're researching the magic like it's science. And so anyway, so that's one aspect where it's been fun to bring in. In terms of, I will say though that I think it has helped me with the organizational and marketing process.
Sure.
Just the process of having gone through graduate school and pulled together this entire research project. I was actually talking to another former researcher turned writer the other day, and they were asking me about Kickstarter because I too am running a Kickstarter right now. and they were asking me about the Kickstarter experience. I was like, honestly, scientist to scientist, it kind of felt like putting together a mini dissertation, because you've got all these different elements, and you've got this big to-do list, and it's got different parts, and you got to break it down. You got to do a lot of writing, you got to do a lot of figure making, and then you got to do a lot of writing. You got to make a video presentation, so it's kind of, like a mini presentation of your thesis project. And then they were like, I don't think I like that. I'm like, well, I didn't like the similarities. I'm just saying it gives you the tools to think about I felt the process of putting together all of the components to make a Kickstarter felt a lot like putting together all of the components for my thesis. So.
That's interesting. I like that. So I would imagine it helps with world building too, then, a little bit.
Yeah, it certainly can with because it becomes very methodical, kind of like the Kickstarter. It's
all in the details, right? So
yes,
which is science in a nutshell.
I like details. I do.
That being said, creating characters to fit into that vein, they have to be they have to have a little bit more, I don't know, just a little bit more character, I guess, right? And so putting that together, do you feel like that is the fun part for you? Is that's the part where you go, I can be any person at this point and get inside that person's head and kind of roam around a little bit and have a little fun with that?
I don't know how much science has helped me do that, because science.
No, I'm saying I'm saying it's the absolute opposite.
Oh, yeah, kind of, yes. Because science, it's actually funny. I fight with Claudia about this sometimes. Claudia really likes story structure, and I don't like story structure. I don't like following, when I'm doing my writing, I don't like following protocols and rules. And once you start giving me a list of these are the formulas that you should put into your stuff, I'm like, no, I'm out. Don't give me a list. Don't give me a sequence. I'm gonna sit here and go, but what if the manager of this coffee shop were made out of rocks? Let's do it. Let's figure out how it works. Let's do it. What if I turned the dog gets or person gets cursed to turn into a dog thing on its head, and I have a dog that got cursed to turn into a person? Let's do it.
I love that.
I don't care if I know exactly what my characters, whatever motivation, like their list of different motivations that they have to have. I don't follow that. I also don't follow story structure.
You listen to them? Do you let them dictate it, or are you kind of guiding them, you feel?
Oh no, I'm a puppet, like most authors are.
Nice.
I had a couple of characters just the other. I'm writing into the third installment of my current story right now, and I had a couple of characters who have slowly become they're side characters that pop in and out. They slowly become my favorite side characters and fan favorites as well. And I had them throw like a total wrench into their backstory the other day, and I'm like, how do you guys think I'm going to solve this? I think I figured it out, though.
Oh, awesome. Well, tell everybody a little bit about what you've written in the series that you have out and what you're currently doing.
Yeah, sure. So I have been writing for the past 3 years. 3 years this week, as a matter of fact.
Wow, nice. Congratulations.
Yeah. On Kindle Vella. So that's Amazon's serial fiction platform. So you publish episodes, sort of one chapter at a time. And I had already conveniently been writing and sort of putting out a serial when that platform launched. And so I'm like, yeah, let's give it a shot. And so I've been writing consistently on that platform since it launched. So I put out the first season of a superhero story that I was working on That one is kind of on the back burner, although the first season is available as an add-on in my Kickstarter. But that story is kind of on hold. I also have been working on a horror short story anthology for a while. But the most recent project, because I pulled together everything oh, that's my dog. She says hi. I pulled together everything that I knew and learned about indie publishing and Kindle Vella together to put out this story about an interdimensional coffee shop. So back when I was in grad school, I was a regular at a coffee shop near my institution, and I wrote most of my thesis at that coffee shop, and I applied for jobs at that coffee shop, and it was the first time I had really truly been a regular somewhere, and I wanted to bottle up that feeling and take it with me in the form of a story. And so I did that thing that I always do, and I bottled up that feeling and said, so what if I add magic? And we ended up with an interdimensional coffee shop. And so it's kind of a slice of life type. I mean, it's got obviously through plots and such, but it's kind of a slice of life story about a college freshman who stumbles through a portal in her dorm's basement into an interdimensional coffee shop and meets all kinds of crazy characters, and decides that she totally fits in there and is going to keep going back, and she's going to blog about this because she's a journalism student, and I'm going to practice my blogging. So she decides to blog about her experiences in this interdimensional coffee shop, and that is the format of my story, is her blog. So
nice.
Season 1 is currently being made into a long form format, and that's the one that is in Kickstarter right now.
Is that what you're selling at Multiverse? What are you selling at Multiverse that people can grab on?
That is also what I will be selling at Multiverse, yes. So after the Kickstarter wraps up at the end of the month, and then I'm going to be launching the retail version of Mobius Drip, hopefully in early October, so I can bring all of those lovely copies with me, along with all of the swag that I am making for the Kickstarter. Anything that I don't sell is going to come with me to Multiverse. Claudia already told me that I can mail her anything because she's driving with the kids. So,
nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So tell everybody where they can, if they're not going to be at Multiverse and they're watching this, tell everybody where they can find your lovely stuff at.
So if you would like the Kickstarter exclusive special edition of the first season of Mobius Drip, my link tree is, I can point. Yeah. That is my link tree right there. And my Kickstarter is linked in the link tree. That is available until the 31st of July. And like I said, that's a special edition. There's cool swag that goes along with it. It is currently fully funded, so you don't have to worry about it not going through. It's going to happen. And then if you want the regular retail edition, that should be available on Amazon shortly before Multiverse in early October.
Nice. Well, Calley, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this and for applying to Multiverse. I look forward to meeting you in October and talking to you some more. And experiencing your first con. That's awesome. That's going to be Multiverse. We're real excited about that. So thank you so much for that opportunity.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, everybody. We have one more thing to talk about, and that's what Multiverse does as far as charities go. Again, something very unique to Multiverse that I think is very cool. A lot of local charities that they support and some really great causes. And here is the reveal of what they're going to be, what is the recipient of the charitable donations this year. And a little bit more than just that is happening this year in the charity realm for Multiverse. And we'll do that, and then I'll be back to wrap things up. All right. One of the intricate ways in which Multiverse is such a great con is its charity work. And Multiverse is thrilled to announce that the Lost and Found Youth has been selected as the recipient of our charity fundraising proceeds for 2024. Lost and Found Youth is a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting LGBTQ+ youth experiencing homelessness with a mission to equip them with the skills and resources necessary for independent living. For more details about Lost and Found Youth, you can find the link in our description below. Multiverse is utilizing the 32 auctions once again for its charity auction, featuring a variety of items available for bidding both at the convention and online. Additional items, including those from our charity art jam, will be continually added to the site, providing bidders with the opportunity to review and place bids remotely. You can visit the auction page at the link in the description below. To donate an item, you can click on the donate button and form. Again, the link will be in the description below. Additionally, Multiverse is conducting a food drive to benefit last year's charity beneficiary, Backpack Buddies of Metro Atlanta. Backpack Buddies is a committed program to providing weekend meals to approximately 2,500 children who rely on their schools for their weekday meals. For more information about Backpack Buddies, the link is in the description below. There will be more details released about the food drive as they develop, so stay tuned to all of that. MultiverseCon.org site, and join us this October for Multiverse. Another great reason to support and be a part of the Multiverse Convention. Those charities are so important to our society, and they mean so much. And Multiverse is very excited to have that be a part of the experience for those of you who will be attending Multiverse and those of you who will not be. Still, these are wonderful charities to check out and support if you can. We really appreciate that opportunity as well. And it's just another great reason to come in October. The auction always brings about some really, really cool stuff. Everybody kind of steps up their game and gives out some incredible artwork. There's some really cool swag, some collector's items that you just can't get anywhere other than at Multiverse. And that's kind of a neat little thing about Multiverse. And it's so awesome that that Jesse, Allison, Vanessa, everybody involved in Multiverse puts that together and makes that a part of what is, an awesome experience. As always, Multiverse is still looking for people to come and join us. So, October is just around the corner, everybody. Don't hesitate. Thank you for this opportunity to join me, to feature some of the folks you'll see at Multiverse and hear what they're talking about. I can't wait. Yes, we will see you all in October, and that's going to be awesome. And thanks, everybody, for joining us in another Spotlight on the Multiverse. And just remember that it's always time to go indie now. Hey, listen, we're not done here tonight. So if you're watching this live, come back in a couple hours. We have late night news. If you are the actual news story was mentioned here today with a certain program that helps you get funded for things. We have news on the developments of what that program is doing. They're doing some really incredible, neat things that you probably want to hear about if you're planning on using a crowdfunding campaign. So we're doing this cool little mashup tonight, myself and Vanessa, where we're going to be doing the news, and CL Ken has a great marketing tip on top of that. And then we're going to also then transition right into a conversation, a cocktail, Vanessa's talk show. And I will be the guest on that show. So if you ever wanted to ask me a question or talk to me about something, grill me, put me on the hot seat. I'm happy to be there to do that for you. And I hope that I see you there in the chat. That will happen at 9 p.m. Eastern. So just in a little while, we will be live again. So tonight's a busy night for us here at Go Indie Now, as is almost every night. But we're real excited to bring that to you, and we're going to have a lot of fun with that. So we'll see you then later. And remember, that's always time to Go Indie Now. Bye, everybody.